Welcome to the Hanley Effect, a podcast by the Hanley Foundation designed to educate, change minds, and save lives. Our goal is to inspire you, showcase our innovations, and change the conversation about addiction and mental health. Join us as we unravel stories of resilience, recovery, and hope.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Hanley Effect. I'm John Dyben.
I'm Rachel Docekal.
Rachel, it is so good to see you. I always say Dr. D, but today I just felt like saying, hey, Rachel.
Okay, I'll say, hey, John, instead of, hey, Dr. D.
I like it. It works. Well, welcome, everybody. Our banter is so cool. I just think it's my favorite part.
The coolest.
But we've actually got another cool pair today.
We do.
Equally cool and maybe even like next level in some ways.
Maybe cooler than we are.
We'll have to see.
It's possible.
In some ways, we'll let everybody else be the judge. But I am excited. We've got a really cool couple today. One that I have known for many, many, many years and has been a friend for many years.
I'm just considering him a member of the Hanley family. Period. End of story.
Listen, you're just as likely to see him walking around Hanley Center today as 20 years ago.
That's right.
And the other, I am just met for the first time today, but have read a lot of his work. And I realized that I have probably, as a student and even as a professional, probably cited his work many times.
Absolutely.
Because he is, is a prolific writer and researcher in our field. So I'd like to have me be quiet now. That's the Dr. D's looking at me saying.
I'm not giving him the be quiet look, although I do want to hear from our guests. At some point.
Let's make now that point. We want to welcome from GIA, we want to welcome Dr. Antonello Bonci and Terry Shapiro. Welcome to both of you.
Welcome. Did you hear the little accent that John pulled out there? Very good.
Perfect.
That's all I wanted to hear. Okay, we're done. We can end the show. Welcome to both of you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having us. Dr. Bonci's out in California, and I'm here in beautiful, sunny Florida today.
So we're all just as hot as can be, no matter what.
Yes.
So the two of you are working on a project together, something that Dr. Bonci founded, some time ago. And I'd love to have the two of you, just introduce yourselves, tell our audience a little bit about yourself and what you're doing. And then once we've done that, tell us about what GIA is. Tell us about TMS and the different things that you're doing.
Absolutely. Terry, would you like to start? Would you like me to start?
Sure. I'll start just by thanking Dr. Docekal and Dr. Dyben for having us on. Dr. Bonci and I are absolutely honored to be part of this fantastic podcast. I've watched many episodes, and I think you guys are a great team doing this together and getting an opportunity to educate a lot of the public through your podcast. So thank you. I've been working with Dr. Bonci and Francesco Del Governatore, Robert Chaparelli, the entire GIA Healthcare team for about the past 4 years now. And the main thing that we do is, what you'll hear more about is transcranial magnetic stimulation. We met at the famous dinner where there was no dinner, which is a very long story for another day, and have become business partners and partners in healing, partners in science, and just doing absolutely, if I might say so myself, through Dr. Bonci and Dr. Moreno and our medical team and clinical team, amazing work with people who are really, really suffering and struggling. So I'm proud to be part of the team and working with Dr. Bonci, and I'll pass it over to you. You can introduce yourself. I'm just an old guy that's been around working in the behavioral health field since 1986 and have done.
That's what I wanted you to say. Yep.
So many things
from our audience. Yeah, give our audience, just before you pass it over to Dr. Bonci, just a glimpse at how long you've been working in our field, because as we start to talk about this innovation, you are one of those folks who is going to be able to talk about the progression in our field of enhancements and et cetera. So Talk about that, Terry.
Well, thank you for that. Talking about myself is one of my least favorite things to do, but I'll just say that, as I said a minute ago, 1986 is when I got my start working in, and funny enough, it's cocaine specific treatment back in the 80s when it was a huge issue in this country, and then the crack epidemic, and continued working on in various roles. I started out as what we call back then a milieu therapist, which today people call techs or behavioral health techs or recovery advocates, and worked my way into the admissions department, and then community relations, clinical positions as a therapist and clinical director, and then administrator, executive director, in various spots around the country. Worked in employee assistance program for Amtrak Railroad, which is a really cool gig. Have done work with Major League Baseball and other sports leagues around the country, helping with players and their families. And all the while watching the fields evolve in behavioral health and addiction treatment from mostly talk therapy, individual therapy, group therapy, education, lecture, family work. And then, we started to bring in more things like medication, how medication can help, where can the two marry to help people looking for better outcomes. We know that many people, millions and millions upon millions of people have gotten help through mutual support groups around the world. And continue to do so, and will continue to do so. But we have never, until recently, we have not done a great job of marrying the work of brain science and wellness and holistic health together with the work that we were already doing, where we were helping millions of people turn their lives around and find their path to recovery. And now we have opportunities to do that through science. And that's where my wonderful friend, colleague, partner, running mate, Dr. Bonci comes in.
Thank you, Terry. So you may never guess this from my accent, but I am.
You're from Texas.
New York.
New York, yes. So, but I spent most of my life in the United States. So when I was a resident in neurology, so I'm a neurologist in Italy. I practice in Italy. I am also a neuroscientist. And I became a neuroscientist because during my residency in neurology, I was in Rome. I did medical school in Rome and residency in Rome. I realized, we're talking about the early 90s, that neurology and psychiatry were very short of tools to help people. We would kind of watch patients struggle, both in neurology and psychiatry, right? And we didn't have much new to offer. So I said, okay, I'm a neurologist. I love to see patients here in Italy, but I got to do more. I need to try to do something. So my obsession became trying to find treatments and cures for people. And we'll get to that, because kind of an anomaly for a neurologist to step into complex behaviors. But I was always fascinated more by complex behaviors than by pure neurological diseases. So I was sent from my chair of neurology in Rome to United States for the first time in Portland, Oregon, back in 1994, to the beautiful Portland, Oregon, to do some research on long-term effects of cocaine and morphine in the rodent's brain. And since then, right after my postdoctoral fellowship in Portland, Oregon, at the Volume Institute, which is an amazing research center, I did a sabbatical at UCSF with one of my amazing longtime friends and mentor, Dr. Robert Malenka, who's one of the co-chairs of neuroscience at Stanford. And we just spoke the other day anyway. And I started doing research, and within a year, talking about 1998, in 1999, I was able to open my own laboratory at UCSF. Wow. And I started doing research on three main things. What are the long-term effects produced by alcohol, cocaine, and stress? And my research started as an independent investigator, as a principal investigator at UCSF back in 1999. So as you were saying before, John, we had a series of papers in Nature, Science, Cell, and so on. But the bottom line is that our research and my research was always obsessed about, okay, if I can identify certain brain changes, for example, in people with cocaine addiction, then maybe we can find a way to reverse those changes and free these people from cravings, for example, to cocaine. And after 12 years at UCSF, I became a professor and so on. I accepted the job as scientific director at the NIH for NIDA. NIDA is the National Institute on Drug Abuse, and it has a very interesting geographical location because NIDA is located at the Johns Hopkins Bayview campus. So I was immersed into this amazing university environment as I was running this intramural program. The intramural program is a physical research institute where we were studying from single cells to clinical trials, many, many aspects of addictions and every disease related to addiction. So when I was at the NIH at NIDA, we had a paper in 2013 that created very strong science on why would have made to use transcranial magnetic stimulation in patients with cocaine addiction. And as you guys know, from a medicine point of view, we don't have therapies just from the medical standpoint that can treat cocaine addictions or psychostimulant addictions. So I was very focused as a neuroscientist on these orphan diseases that have no medical treatment, right? We have the amazing things that therapy can do, that support groups can do, such as AA, for example. That is phenomenal. But as a medical doctor, from the medical standpoint, cocaine was the perfect disease to study. And so that's where the whole adventure started with TMS. So we had this beautiful Nature paper in 2013, creating the rationale for why to use TMS on patients with cocaine addiction. And right after that, within a few years, we did a series of clinical trials in Europe to the point that transcranial magnetic stimulation, 2021, got approved in Europe by the EMA, European Medicine Agency, for the treatment of cocaine and other addictions.
What year was that first approved in Europe? Again, I missed the year.
I'm sorry.
2021. Okay.
2021.
Okay. Yes.
But our adventure in the US started with Terry, with our investors, right in the midst of COVID, after we had treated in my previous clinics in Italy, more than 3,000 people. So that started 2014, 2015, and so on, all those clinical trials done in Europe. And then in 2019, 2020, because of COVID, we started the American adventure, and we were very, very lucky, and we are lucky to being able to bring Terry with us. So that's where it all started. That is why we are not just doing TMS, by all means, because TMS alone is never enough. But to add TMS to therapies, to every other modality that works, and the addition of TMS in all these patients with all sorts of addictions can really be a game changer. This is why we started our clinics, and Terry and I met.
For the lay person, will you explain what TMS is? How does it work? Again, we have listeners that come from many different audiences, and I want them to really understand exactly what this does and how it works.
Absolutely.
Why don't you take that one, Dr. Bonci? I don't want to show off but go ahead. You probably know something about it.
Terry knows it better than me at this point. I've heard Terry explaining TMS, and he's better than me. That's for sure at this point, because he has done it a gazillion times. But TMS is so simple that it's almost difficult to believe that our brain can respond so well to something like that. TMS is a focal, small electromagnetic field that aims to reach the surface of our brain cells. And it was invented also 40 years ago. The first article on TMS is Lancet 1985. So it's nothing new. It's an old dog in a sense. And
kind of like you, John.
That's definitely true. Listen, nobody's arguing with that. Nobody's coming to my defense, and I'm not even arguing. It's true. Our banter is the best part. Except this is before you were so rudely interrupted, and so you're talking about an electromagnetic stimulation that reaches the brain.
It's the principle that I like to use as an analogy. When we place our iPhone on those induction chargers, there is a transfer of electrical current, right? And our brain works with electrochemical signals. Our brain is 80 billion tiny batteries that are all connected with each other, 1,200 connections for every single brain cell. And our mood, cravings, insomnia, depression, anxiety, OCD, ADD, they depend, science agrees on that, in changes in our brain frequency. It's like a giant heart in a sense that it can beat too slow. For example, studies have shown, this is why TMS was invented, that people with depression have a reduction of activity in the frontal cortex. So the electrical activity in our frontal cortex is reduced, these studies have shown, in people with depression, but also in people with addictions like cocaine, gambling, and so on and so forth. So the original idea of TMS, which was invented for medication-resistant depression in the 80s, is to rebalance brain activity like a pacemaker and bring back to normal this brain activity. That was the original concept and idea of TMS. Why was TMS requested and invented in the 80s? Because we already knew, scientists and clinicians knew in the 80s, that the majority of us do not respond to the traditional medications. Only a minority of us. Depends on the studies, 35, 40% of us. So that was a request of clinicians back in the 80s to say, hey, medications are great whenever they work, but the majority of patients do not respond to medications. So the original invention of TMS was for medication-resistant depression. Since the 1980s, there have been more than 20,000 studies on TMS. And we know now that, for example, while addictions or depression can reduce brain activity in the frontal cortex, so TMS aims just a few minutes a day to stimulate this brain region that becomes very quiet. Anxiety, OCD, ADD, PTSD, insomnia. Studies have shown that there are other brain regions that instead beat too fast. So they have increased activity. And there are frequencies with these small electromagnetic fields to reduce now, like a reverse pacemaker. That's an analogy that I love. Excessive brain activity. So TMS can modulate back to the center brain activity in a huge variety of conditions. Again, now after 40 years, there are beautiful studies beyond the original studies on depression, addictions, insomnia, ADD, OCD, PTSD, Alzheimer's early stage, and so on and so forth. So it's a very strongly developing field of science because of also the success rate. It's a very serious TMS center. So if they know what they're doing, it can be as high as 80%, 90%. So TMS can be very effective. But TMS 100% depends, is one of the weaknesses of TMS, on who does TMS, which is a crucial point that maybe we can elaborate on later on.
So for our listeners, 2 questions. Does it hurt? I had somebody ask me, does it hurt? And the second thing is, how long does it take?
Right. So TMS, you feel this electrical tapping on your head. It shouldn't hurt. It can be uncomfortable, but you feel this electric tap. Some people, however, can be very sensitive, so it may be painful to some people. It's fairly rare, but usually it doesn't hurt, but you definitely feel this AAA kind of battery feeling tapping on your head, on your forehead. But it shouldn't be painful. It's usually
No, you have to be super, super sensitive for that to bother you. The benefit outweighs the little tapping that you feel.
Yeah. And the other feature, great question that you asked, a feature of TMS, which is crucial to what TMS does is that you have to repeat many, many different stimulations. It's not a few seconds a day. It takes a few minutes a day. And in general, the scientific community agrees, for example, that for depression or OCD and so on, people have to do TMS for 36 sessions. So it's over the course of several weeks. And why is that? Because if I struggled with depression or addictions or OCD, you name it, for many years, my brain is wired both electrically and chemically in a certain way. So it doesn't take a day to tell my brain, hey, okay, now I'm here, I'm TMS, and in 5 minutes, I'm going to rewire your entire or rebalance your chemistry and rebalance your brain activity. It takes repetition. And it's a feature of our brain. Our brain needs to learn that my new normal is to not be anxious or craving cocaine or alcohol or being depressed. But in order to rebalance that wiring and chemistry, our brain needs to see the same stimulation over and over and over for a certain period of time.
Thank you.
That makes total sense. And when you're describing these, first of all, the thousands and thousands and thousands of studies over time, and also what you're seeing in your own clinical experience, and the two of you are working together to bring this to healthcare organizations and people. I'm always curious, especially with things that are, you've got, innovations. What are some of the challenges that you face? What are some of the things that keep people from accessing this, who you would look at and say, man, you really might benefit from this?
Do you want to answer, Terry?
Sure. That's a great question. And you're right, there's definitely barriers to treatment and have been for a long time. So number one, we'd like everybody to be able to access the GIA version of TMS, our protocols, our staff, those that pay attention to each and in every session that takes place versus your, unfortunately, Taco Bell type TMS clinics and centers that are opening up all over the country, because it's easy for a group practice to buy or lease a machine and have a person trained for 4 hours the way the manufacturer trains people, and then have at it. And then we wind up getting those patients that call us and say, I tried TMS, it didn't go really well, it didn't do anything for me, but people are telling me to try doing TMS with you. We get those kind of people from all over the country that wind up coming and staying with us and doing TMS with us. But, one of the main, time is a big factor, right? So if I have a police officer who is depressed, doesn't want to use medication for the side effects and for other reasons, as a police officer on the street, and they've heard about TMS, and it's, how do I find that time as a police officer in my schedule to be able to attend, to make it to a GIA TMS location and do 36 sessions. And they're doing it, and they're having it with great success. So I think success breeds more success, because people will tell their friends, hey, this really does work, and they'll make the effort. And then it's, the usual access to treatment from rural areas that's difficult, right? And then the payers have started to ease up their restrictions and prerequisites for having to, it used to be you'd have to fail 4 antidepressants at maximum doses before, and a payer would consider paying for TMS. Now it's down to 2. And it used to be difficult with those 2. And then they wanted to see, did you try therapy? And do you have any addiction in your background? We found that the groups that the payers that we're in network with and contracted with, have been much easier to work with than in the past. And then the other issue is,
just to clarify, you mean insurance companies when you
insurance
say
companies.
payers? Yep.
Yes, thanks, Rachel.
So insurance is now
private insurance is covering
it. Yep.
Yeah, it has been for us. We've seen the change, which has been a huge help to a lot of people that never thought they'd be able to access TMS. And then the other factor is it's currently only approved by the FDA for certain conditions such as treatment-resistant depression, major depressive disorder, OCD, smoking cessation. but we see the hard work of the manufacturers of the transcranial magnetic stimulation machines hard at work lobbying and doing research to be able to show that it works. And we see now pretty soon adolescents will be able to access TMS because of the great work of one of the manufacturers, Brainsway from Israel. And we primarily use two different machines. We use Brainsway from Israel and we use MagVenture from Denmark when we're doing our TMS for various reasons we could go into, but then I would have to end this podcast and it would self-destruct.
So who would TMS not be right for? Are there contraindications? Are there things that you would say this patient isn't right for this?
Yes. So, for example, people who struggle with epilepsy or had seizures, certain protocols with TMS could not be done because they could trigger more seizures, right? That is a population of people. So epilepsy and seizures are a contraindication to TMS. People who are acutely intoxicated, whether it's alcohol, cocaine, or stimulants, because again, could be dangerous to stimulate their brain, it could trigger seizures. People who have metal plates in their head or neck. The scientific community used to say 25 centimeters, then 20, then 15. So the bottom line, 6 to 8 inches away from the place of stimulation, no metal or cochlear implants. Because why? Because TMS could make them hot and they could cause pain. What else did I miss there? Well, brain aneurysm.
Implants and
Yeah, if a person has a brain aneurysm, so a brain vascular malformation, because one of the main effects of TMS is also to increase brain blood flow and brain oxygenation. So if I have a brain aneurysm, I may have too much blood flow to my brain. In theory, I've never seen an article on that, but in theory, if we know that, people tend not to do TMS in those patients. And those are usually, for example, there are studies that even pregnant women, second trimester, third trimester, those studies have been done since 2014, could do TMS, and it's safe. So studies on young people, adolescents. In Italy, we have treated as a team effort children with severe autism down to the age of 9, 8. So it's fairly safe in general. But again, as Terry was saying, assuming that you know what you're doing, right? Because TMS has a lot of details into intensity of stimulation, location, precision, frequency. Those are not just, you don't open a book or an article and you find them there. It takes thousands of patients to.
That I think is a really important point that I think most people wouldn't think about. If someone wants to go and they want to look up TMS and they'll see different machines, but it almost sounds like, sometimes people think, that it's like an MRI, or I thought this, like, an MRI, like there's, you take, every person goes in the same way. And it's like, but it sounds like it's more like a paintbrush. And it really, that instrument in the hand of an artist that knows what they're doing is going to be very different than that same instrument in my hands.
I watch our team on a daily basis all across the country, the communication regarding each patient every day. And we see when a patient is not doing well after the first number of sessions that we think maybe they should be showing signs of improvement. We make those adjustments there all along the way. That doesn't happen in most TMS places where you see this this group, this brain trust coming together to work together and make sure that each patient's protocol is going the way it should. And the other point I wanted to make, you talked about patients who are eligible and patients that are utilizing it. What we know is there are professional sports teams getting their own TMS unit and using it for performance for their players, including one Major League Baseball team who's having an incredible season right now. And I wonder how much of that's related to TMS, as well as in the U.S. military intelligence community. It has been using TMS for mood stabilization for their guys in the field for a number of years now, both in Germany and here in the US.
Well, absolutely. That's a good point. If you think that more than 25 VA hospitals have TMS machines and they use TMS machines to help veterans, that's another testament to how strong the knowledge and the technology can be in the right hands, of course. So that's very important. But it's really crucial what Terry was saying before, because we spend, what I like to say, we spend 85% of our time. We have clinics in Europe, clinics here, to obsess about those 15% of patients that do not do as we expect. Because, of course, it doesn't work in 100% of people. If it did, I mean, God thank you. The reality is,
right,
it doesn't, right? So our team, my medical directors here, and Dr. Moreno, who's our senior TMS advisor, he's a neurosurgeon who knows tons of things about TMS that you don't find them in books. We obsess about every single patient that does it. We don't spend much time on, okay, check. This is not working. Why? What can we improve? What can we change? What are we missing? So that's what these clinical meetings that my team has all the time in all the clinics, we obsess about the few patients that don't respond to TMS and why. We got to figure it out. Because one thing that we don't have, which everybody's working on, I'm about to go to the Clinical TMS Society here in San Diego in just a few hours, is can we create predictors of outcome? That's the holy grail,
So
right?
good.
That's gold standard.
That's gold standard. So anyway.
And that's what science is. Go ahead.
I was just gonna. I want to go back to where I was earlier, Terry, with your long tenure in our field, and being able to see advances. You know, we talk a lot here on the Hanley Effect about many of the advances that were pioneered at Hanley. Give us an anecdote of a specific patient, you know, and something that you saw where TMS really made a difference, where before this breakthrough, this is a patient who would continue to suffer with the disease of addiction.
Well, Rachel, thank you for that. Thank you for that opportunity to talk about that. And I have to say that, you know, I watched the Center for Neuroplasticity, the Center for Neuroplasticity at Hanley do incredible work over the years with Dr. Grossman and the team over there, and Dr. Dyben, doing some really, really cool, innovative stuff with people who absolutely loved it, including a lot of the police officers that we had come from out of state, struggling with PTSD and anxiety. They absolutely spent a lot of time in that great group over there doing all kinds of amazing work. And a device that John recommended a long time ago for me, I still use the Muse at home. I have one. I take it with me on the road. It's great. Okay. We, you know, I'll tell you, Rachel, to answer your question, we've had a huge number of people that work in our field come to us and say, hey, I know I've sent you patients for TMS, but can I talk to you about something that's going on with me? And I would tell you that for me, one of the most, I mean, there's been so many rewarding clients, and the one for sure is a person who's a therapist in private practice that was struggling and had been on medication for 8 years, 4 medications consistently, and said, I've got to do something different. I've got to try this. And I remember coming to the office and seeing that person on their last day. The person ran up and jumped on me in my arms and said, can you believe this? I'm off all the medication. Wow. I've never felt this good in my life, and has come out publicly and talked about it. And I've been in conferences where this person talks about how GIA Healthcare, you know, helped save their life and change their life for the better from TMS. And many people, therapists, people in our field that have come and wanted to try TMS because they themselves came, you know, and you know, told me the secret that they weren't doing well. They were tired of medication. They were tired of the weight gain. They were tired of side effects, and that it just wasn't working for them.
Yeah.
I love that.
So because I'm the bad guy, and I have to be the wrap us up guy. But you know, one of the things that we like to always do is we like to let our guests think about what have the last word and think about what they would like to, what's one message that each of you would like to leave for our audience. But before we do that, I know people are listening now or watching now. They're going to want to understand more about this. How do they find you? How do they get more information about you and what you're doing?
Very, very simple. The letter G, the letter I, the letter A, healthcare.com, giahealthcare.com or giamiami.com. In Italy, we go under the name Brain in Care by Gia Miami. So if they're in Italy and they're listening to the Hanley Effect from Italy, they can go on that website and find our locations in Italy. There are many.
And if you are, please let us know.
Thousands,
Yes, that's right.
Thousands of people in Italy.
And so
We're
Terry,
translated into 45 languages. You guys don't realize this.
Way to go.
Amazing.
I mean, I don't know why not 46 personally, but we'll talk about that in a minute.
That's the number that came
Excelente.
to mind.
Ojalá italiano es uno de esos idiomas. Italiano, español, inglés, francés.
So we're going to
Muy,
let
muy bien.
Terry have the first shot at the last word. Terry, what is one thing that you would like to leave with folks today?
I think Dr. Bonci mentioned it, but I'd like to say that TMS is spectacular when used in conjunction with the modalities that a patient needs. And we always tell people it's not a magic bullet. It's going to help you tremendously. But people, if you're in therapy and you've been working in therapy, but you're a bit stuck and you're doing TMS, stay in therapy, because we hear from the therapist that, hey, my patient that you guys have been treating, it's almost finished with you guys, is way more insightful and aware in therapy now than they ever were. So they're able to do that work now. So I guess my bullet is make sure that you do TMS and do everything else that's recommended for you to get well. Anto?
Thanks,
So-
Terry.
So one thing that is related, John, to what you said, we are also very passionate about education, and education is power for people. So anybody can call GIA or Brain and Care, schedule free conversations with me, with Terry, with our team members, and we offer free education about TMS, about the science, all the science they possibly want to know. We can send them articles and material. So it's crucial that people have access to knowledge before they commit to something that is even financially for many people complicated. But my personal dream, guys, I am on this life mission of seeing TMS available for everyone, because TMS should be available to people, inmates, people struggling with mental health everywhere, older people because of the studies on Alzheimer's and Parkinson's and dementia and insomnia and so on. TMS should be ideally everywhere. Every hospital should give access to people to TMS because it works so amazingly well. And that's my personal dream and my personal hope that the next 5 years, TMS is going to be everywhere that people need it to be.
Let's see it bloom. I love that.
So good.
Thank you both for your time and for this was a lot of fun. Thank you, Dr. D.
Thank you, Dr. D.
Lo-
Wait.
Wait.
We were supposed to be John and Rachel.
Thank you,
today.
Rachel D.
Thank you, John D.
And to everybody who's watching or listening, I hope you'll look up G and learn more about them and consider what if this, I love that opportunity to make that phone call and get that education. That's such a huge opportunity. So also thanks everybody for being here, whether you're watching or listening. Be well this week, and we'll see you next time on The Hanley Effect.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you for joining us for the Hanley Effect. To learn more about our programs, visit hanleyfoundation.org or call 844-502-4673.